recognize that 1 in 5 adults suffer from mental health issues, and 1 in 6 students, youths. Um, so about a year ago, Mr. Collazo actually approached us, right, about trying to create a mental health task force to try to destigmatize, to try to be proactive with mental health issues around the town. And this is a product of that, right? So we came up with a town, we made several recommendations, and one of them was to have some sort of educational component to it. So with that, I would like to welcome Mr. Collazo to the podium to do some opening remarks.
Thank you so much for being here. My name is Luis Collazo. I'm one of the council members, and on behalf of the mayor and the entire town council, thank you for being present. This issue is near and dear to me. I'm a clinical social worker. I'm a proud Panther, paws up. So it's very proud to have FIU represented, but really this entire community represented, right? And we have individuals here representing our veterans, our police officers, our elderly, basically every group. And as Hector said, this issue is a global issue that touches all of our lives. I do not know of one individual that has not been touched by mental health, either through personal experience, lived experience, or a loved one or somebody that they know. This particular event is not just going to stop here. It's being broadcasted live. It's going to live forever. So this information needs to be shared. What Hector said is very poignant. We need to break the stigma, and this is the beginning of it. When we start talking about it, we start engaging in it. And one of the things that I'm very, very proud of this community is the ways that we started engaging and really bringing it front and center. And I take zero credit for that. That's really the work of the individuals that are here that set this up. So I do want to thank Hector and the Education Advisory Board for really being champions of this issue. And thank you for organizing this. A round of applause, please. I'm here to introduce our very first speaker. It's somebody who has lived experience, something that's touched us very personally here in this community, and he has turned his lived experience into being a champion on this issue. Frank Walsh, please come on up.
Hi. I'd like to share my story, whether it's with 1,000 people, 100, or just a few, because if it could help one person, that's all that matters to me. I was not even going to share my story, but I was kind of convinced. I have 2 lifelong friends. One is a gentleman named Charlie Rodriguez, who runs a radio station with me now, internet app station, and we do work at Hialeah Hospital. The other is Mayor Manny Sid, who I've known for a long time. And they both brought to my attention something that kind of hit with me, and that is that if my pain being shared to somebody can help keep somebody on this planet for a while longer, maybe that would be something that would help in my son's name, keep his name alive. And I thought that was a great thing. And I opened up on social media. And for those of you who don't know me, I've worked in radio, broadcasting for most of my life. I ran radio stations like Y100, and most known for running Power 96, which when it was good, which was back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. So, the radio station that we have now is a very similar station to that, and we have a...
Preparing to live stream the meeting. This meeting is being live streamed. Awesome. I will click, got it, and I will click. Hello. No, it's not doing the typing thing. Hello. Here we are. Good, come on in. Keep this muted in the meantime. Boom, there we go.
Yeah.
Does
The one I
everybody
got
have
is
one of
29
these?
and
Yes.
Somebody mine's coming with this one.
Keep up.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I've got the 29. I got a 64 Fairlane. I've got a 68 pace car that I just sold it.
One more than the Fairlane.
All right.
Before you start, I just want to, and I just sold it. Thank you, Marcelo, for being here.
Thank you.
Yes, joining.
Welcome to,
Excuse my rookie mistakes.
thank you for offering your time,
Absolutely.
and let's call the meeting to order.
All right, so 7:35.
Sounds good to me.
Roll call. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay. Ruben Argano,
Present.
Sam Budlong. Gisela Soberon. Here. Angel De La Fuerte.
Here.
Added Marcelino. Last name Sotolongo.
Yes.
And Patrice Morales, present.
Okay. Order of business. Any referrals, additions, deletions? Anybody want to add anything to the meeting? Or anything? Okay. Sounds good. I see we have some people from the public. We can move on to public comments.
Yes, so for public comments, we'll limit each comment to 3 minutes. Just please state your name and address, and then you can say your comment.
Okay.
Marilyn Garcia, 6890 Seabright Terrace. We live in a cul-de-sac. We live in Lake Hilda, and we're also speaking on behalf of Barbara Baker. She's out of town. She's out of town, but she's about 3 houses away from us as well. So our concern is to maybe look into putting the fountains and the aerators in the lake as
Okay.
well. It's improved since the town has taken care of the lake now, because before it used to be taken care of, I guess, by someone, and it wasn't really being taken care of. It has improved, but it still needs help.
You're on Lake Hill, don't you?
Yes.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Sorry.
My name is Julio Burgos, 7439 Big Cypress Drive, Lake Mary. I've been a resident in Miami Lakes since 1990. And I realize that I'm coming out of left field with my comments. Basically, I'm aware of the special taxing districts that have been created and the opportunity to do so for those HOA that are not. My contention has to do with the fact that the lakes are part of the stormwater system that drains and collects the water and keeps the streets from flooding and the properties. And that the main pollutants of the lake has to do with the stormwater draining into the lakes. And therefore, I'm of the opinion that the town should absorb all of the costs for maintaining the lakes. Because right now, the lakes are only being subsidized by the individual homeowners association, and some of them only the property owners that are directly in front of the lakes, not even the ones that are landlocked. So I think that's grossly unfair. And the town can possibly do a study to find out the feasibility of doing so, and subsequently possibly do a referendum to see if the town as a whole would agree to it. Because basically, I think it's unfair for the individual homeowners association to subsidize the maintenance of the lakes that are that are the signature feature of our town. And by the virtue of the fact that the lakes have been, our area was built in 1968, so it's been like 50 years of muck that has accumulated inside the lakes. In order to get rid of that muck, one has to spend a lot of money and get special machineries. And with time, this is 50 years, so if you add another 15, 20 years to it, it can get to a level that would not be sustainable and therefore cause the lakes to die at a great expense to the town. So if the town were to do an analysis as to what it would entail in terms of cost and manpower to take over all the maintenance of the lakes, as I said, and do a referendum, I think that would be a good way to go forward. And if we spread the cost of the maintenance throughout the whole town, it can potentially be minimal amount.
Okay, thank you.
I believe is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak? Any other public comments? Hello, Sam?
Good evening, all.
No worries. Please let the record reflect Sam Budlong is present. So if there's no other members that wanted to speak from the public? Okay.
Move on to approval from the minutes of the last meeting. And if we can just take a look at the same.
Rookie mistake?
A motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Anybody but the chair?
Oh, no, I'll second it. Well, I can't, I can make a motion. Right?
Yeah, it should be anybody.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Emotions, we now need a second. You'll be the second,
I'll be a second.
okay, so he made the motion and then he seconded.
All
Any discussion?
right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All
the minutes
opposed?
are-
No? Okay, old business. I report on lake condition.
So I sent everyone the pictures from the last lake maintenance that was on 9/9. I was able to be present for that, for Lake Hilda and for Lake Patricia. I sent you guys the pictures from the vendor as well as just a few that I snapped on my own. Just a personal observation, the lakes look good from my standpoint, but I know Jeff. He did say that he would be available via phone during this time. He wasn't able to physically make it. And that's our lake maintenance regional director. So he's unable to make it here in person, but he is available for a call if anybody had any questions that they really wanted to get an answer on really quickly from him.
I would chime in that it's been extraordinarily hot, which in past years would promote a lot of algae growth, but the algae growth is minimal. The lake is,
Minimal.
in my view, much better.
Yeah, with the last couple of meetings I wasn't here, but where are we with maybe restocking fish or anything like that? It's coming up, right? Isn't it coming up around November?
That would be item D.
Yeah, the restocking is on there.
Okay, I mean, okay, so that's, well, we had to move that earlier, so, I mean.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Christine, I want to see somebody give us, maybe Jeff is the right person, give us an update upon what to expect over the next few months in terms of what the vendor is gonna do.
Outside of their
No,
regularly
just
scheduled.
what the plan is, that next month we're gonna do stocking, next month we're gonna do same, the following we're gonna do this, at least once.
So like a
quarter.
schedule of what else is to
Yeah,
come.
yeah, plans,
For the next couple of months.
upcoming activities.
Yeah, because we put November, we're gonna stop the fish, this, and the other, it gives the residents a.
Right, I mean, does he
A
see
little-
anything that we need to be aware of?
In our last meeting, the committee did mention that they wanted a little more information or input from the vendor as to which fish should be stocked. I believe that was the meeting where he called in, and I know Sam was able to ask some questions, Ruben was able to ask some questions directly to the vendor and get those answers as far as,
I would like to ask him what size of fish he's gonna put in. Because,
that would be at the committee's discretion, because we pay for the fish based on the size.
yeah, but we
So,
have big carp bass in our lake and they're gonna destroy all that fish.
okay, so if the committee wishes to purchase larger fish, I can get a quote, just let me know exactly, the size that we're looking for, and we can get a quote for the next fish stocking to see.
I think the last time we had, they were like 6 inches or something.
Right. Excuse me, I would prefer that we get some professionals' advice on what is necessary to
Right.
put in this lake that won't be eaten by big peacock bass.
Well, we can have a fishing tournament before they stock the fish.
I
We
agree.
can have a fishing
I believe
tournament.
you asked that question to him, and he answered the ones that we were stocking were the best option for
Yeah, I think he
For the
did.
lake.
He did mention.
Were the carp in there?
No, the carp, he said no, something about the carp. I forgot what he
Yeah,
said.
it wasn't what we thought,
Yeah.
right? It was different than what we thought. I don't know
And that's
if I
fine,
read the
shall,
details.
okay, is there anything else that we need to hash out before we get him on the phone? If we want to, I don't know if you want
Well,
to skip around on the
I
items,
think
that way
should
we
skip
have him.
around Just because, I mean, this is something that we do in November, so I mean, I don't know if we can talk about it now or in the next meeting to see what, I mean, it's up to
Just
you
to
guys.
plan
Yeah,
ahead,
see
item
what,
ahead.
see what the
yeah.
cost of size is, what he says for fish, and
And is there, a
why
time-
not carp?
and is there a timing issue too? Is it
Yeah.
better in the spring or the winter? Or?
I think those are all great questions to ask him. I think we can call him and ask him those questions for sure, as well as his recommendation. I know that last year, some of the issue was that some of the fish were out of stock where they would generally get them from, so we had to go a little bit further. I believe the fish come from out of state, and so there was that supply issue that kind of took place, which is kind of what happened with the miscommunication with the timing and the actual
Well,
delivery of the
originally, we
fish.
were getting them from Orlando, up Orlando or Wildwood, right in that area there.
This year, they did come from Georgia, because those areas, those locations didn't have those
Didn't have
fish in stock, yeah. So I know it came from out of state this year for sure. So,
Can we leave that for the end so we can, in case something else comes up, we call
Sure,
them.
I
be a
think that's a
longer
great idea.
conversation, yeah,
I
that'd be
think that's a
long.
great idea,
Just in
yes,
case something else comes up.
Yeah.
absolutely. I'll just make a note of the specific questions that we
Thank you.
asked about, time.
One of the things we had mentioned too in the call and you weren't here was about using a combination, a different combination after he assessed the area of treatment. So now it's been, I don't know how many times, at least what, 3 times since they've done that, at least, I think,
Yeah, it's been
3,
about a month, 2 months, so
yeah, maybe.
at least 8.
So the combination that he suggested, maybe, I don't know how he feels, we can ask him how he, well, he hasn't been out there to see it, but the effectiveness, it seems like it's working. I don't know if it's that or what, but they do a combo based on his assessment, something different.
We're going to item D on old business, unauthorized activities on the public beach. I haven't, at least on Lake Patricia, I haven't seen any more of the,
I saw that sign.
yeah.
It's been over.
Typically, that's something that occurs more in the summer when the kids are on vacation from school and now the school's back in session. They pick trucks, so I haven't seen
But I
it.
think Hilda was the one that's.
Yeah, the biggest issue, a guy will be fishing right next to the no fishing
Sign, yeah,
sign. So,
I've
I
seen
mean,
it too, just driving by.
you know, unless we have a cop there all day long, you know, it's just one of those things.
I guess future considerations, I guess we kind of touched a little bit on that, with the call to Jeff and Fish, so unless anybody else has anything on that. Fish stocking maintenance, we're gonna get to that.
Well, the twice a month has been taking place, obviously, as we spoke about, and I'll do my best to notify you guys. Sometimes I'll get a message the Wednesday before the stocking, when that's coming on the Friday, which is like 2 days notice. Sometimes that'll change and sometimes they'll tell me on Thursday. Or if last maintenance for August, if you guys remember, I sent you out a message Thursday morning saying they switched it to Monday because of a scheduling situation on their end. So it kind of changed it a little bit, but for the most part, I send you guys the email that lets you know when it's coming. That way, if anybody,
I think
keeps an eye out.
probably the most important is the fish stocking.
The fish stocking,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, I mean,
How
the-
long is
the-
that on that list of notifications?
Yes, absolutely. I can email you. We can create just an all-out email. So I'll get your information before you leave here today.
Thank you.
Or if you want to write it down, if you have to leave before meeting is, absolutely.
Just real quick, I want to touch on the maintenance part. I'm home often and I have seen, it's not like before where, man, are they here? They come, they not come. I've seen them regularly coming through the lake and I've seen them do 2 rounds. So I don't know if that's part of what Jeff said before, but before they would just go do 1 round and go. And now they're doing a blue and they're doing some other type of treatment. I don't know what it is. I'll ask Jeff that also, but they're going 2 rounds and 2 different colored types.
Yeah, maybe one's the blue dye and then one's the other.
Something.
That's sulfate.
I'd like to add a little story that will dovetail what you're saying, because your personal observation is important now, because the fellow who had been doing it in Lake Patricia for many, many years. And unfortunately, my wife caught him entering our property and stealing fruit from our tree. And it caused him to lose his job in Lake Patricia. So they now have a new person assigned to doing the John boat work. And I don't know that that person knows it as well as the previous guy did. So watching what they do
He
is
is, he
helpful.
is aware because I spoke to him on the situation and he said that was uncalled for, it's, terrible. And that he's been relieved of this and he's obviously being observed now. And I don't, like I said, I think Jim was gonna handle what he was trying to get stuff done for him as far as what he needs to do to, on their end over there. But maybe you can call with Jeff, this is something that affected you and affected all of us, maybe you can ask.
Yeah, but my concern is just that
Absolutely.
the replacement is the new guy knows what he's doing.
That was uncalled for. That was terrible.
And we spoke to the new gentleman about your fruit trees as well. And
There are more
they
there too.
made sure.
There's now a banana tree there in addition to the papaya. So
That's awesome. You gotta bring us some fruit one day. Come on, Sam. Share the
I
good
can
stuff.
do it.
Share the world.
I can do it.
Exactly.
Me and Sam have a fruit exchange program.
It turns into a bread bake sale too. There's mango bread.
Okay, item F, loading solar devices. I guess. and-
Beyond the riparian rights.
That, I believe, we were relying on some help from council for the town.
From Lorenzo.
Is that who it is?
I forwarded
Was that the
you-
buoys from the spill?
So that was different.
That was
and
different? Okay.
That should have been removed already. They've already completed the scope for that permit, which was that dewatering on pump 33, if I'm getting the number correct. And that was completed as late as Monday. They should have already removed the yellow barrier.
They did.
It was confirmed. Awesome. So when I went there on Friday, I drove around and I wasn't sure if it was still on or not. So thank you for that final confirmation. Because as you guys know, we were waiting to do that additional testing at Lake Patricia because we wanted to make sure that that was gone and then proceed with it. We did, I'm kind of jumping a little bit about the test results, so. Back
Where
to,
this was G, the
the
floating
floating.
devices, we're still waiting on
yes.
council.
I actually just forwarded Sam that response from, and I should have sent it to the entire board.
Can you read it?
The response from Lorenzo. Yes, it's a little lengthy. It's section 13-1605 waterfront properties. And
What is that you're referencing?
13 is of what?
That's 1605.
it is the current, it's an ordinance, the current ordinance as it relates to waterfront properties. I'll find exactly. Is different regarding the HOA and its application properties constructed prior to the completion. My understanding of the lake HOA is dissolved. Its function was transferred to the town special taxing district. Regulation of Lake Patricia and other lakes are governed by our code. So this is part of our code. So I know the question was, are people allowed to put other things inside of the lake? And basically his response, I'll read it to you. I understand the issue of riparian rights as it relates to lakefront properties. It was brought by a resident residing in one of our many townhomes situated on the lakes, which is now defunct HOAs. Lake Patricia is very different. While he may have a point regarding the HOA and its application to properties constructed prior to the creation of the law, it is my understanding that the lake HOA has been dissolved and is now, and its function was transferred to the town via a special taxing district. Regulation of Lake Patricia and other lakes are governed by our code. I have provided a copy below. So this is the code as it pertains to lakefront properties, the full document. I'm just going to go ahead and forward this to everyone so that you guys can see specifically. But anyhow,
Can you cite anything in a quick review of it that addresses specifically the point of our concern?
okay, let's see, because it's a little lengthy. Okay, so landscaping or hedges, waterward of the top of the slope, but landward of the water's edge are allowed. However, hedges or plants. So this basically goes through and says what items are allowed and what items are not allowed per the town's code. Let me see if it actually touches on.
You're reading from the deed restrictions.
I'm sorry?
Those are the deed restrictions that you're reading from the town adopted.
Correct. This talks about decks.
And all that doesn't address, he's just reciting a bunch of stuff that is not on point to our question. Thank you.
So correct, and I think that to that point, there's nothing specifically written about any other items, correct? Which would kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, no, not in my opinion, I don't even want to say that because my opinion was relevant. So, correct, so it basically is the same deed that was adopted by the town as the code for waterfront properties.
Which doesn't answer our question.
Right. I know on
The
Lake
question is-
Hilda, there's a floating Christmas tree. That would have to be part of the, I guess, the same thing. It comes in that purview of floating items, or somebody wants to put a fountain out there or whatever.
Is that Christmas tree there year round?
No, just,
Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
But it's is it within their 10 or
The town
15,
has to
depending, because
address
it
it and
changes.
see how they want to go with it.
The question which he doesn't, I think, want to answer, because I don't think he knows, is beyond riparian rights, does a citizen have the right to put a permanent structure or floating device of any kind?
Beyond it.
And this will be the third time that we've asked him to do it. I know it's probably work that he doesn't want to do. I don't know that. I'm guessing, but I'm sure he doesn't.
It might be a situation of like relaying the message, like it might be me, I'm not relaying the message properly to get him to answer. That's why I was kind of trying to just forward the response, that way it's like, does this answer it, yes or no? Because it's a little hazy.
You have to speak to him, please.
Absolutely, I think that would probably solve it.
Okay.
I understand that those structures allowed by code are permitted. So all others would be disallowed from what he's saying. So basically, any
That's
structure
within-
would need
that's
to be
within.
permitted to be installed into the lake.
Because if we were to put the aerators, we'd have to get a permit. So,
Any
that would-
structure would need to be permitted. That's, I think, the main thing, because it needs to be installed properly, right? So it doesn't become an issue or a safety concern. So,
In this case, I think it was a floating device.
so notwithstanding the provisions of
An anchored floating
subsection C
device.
of this section, existing structures or improvements located waterward of the top of the slope
That's,
that have not modified.
yeah, that's it.
That's not it,
No,
because it says the top of the slope
top of the
because of
slope.
location.
Deed restriction stuff.
Non-conforming structures or improvements that were constructed without a building permit,
Yeah.
waterward of the top of the slope. See, these are
Yeah.
more like if you're building a deck
That's
or
correct.
like a fence extension or something like that. None of these really hit that.
That's correct.
Yeah, Christine.
Oh, ramps.
You can maybe ask the question like that beyond, you know.
Riparian, right.
And I think that's what I did to get this response. I think I just forwarded him your exact email. You sent me an email. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And I just forwarded that to him. And so maybe we'll schedule a meeting where we can get you two together and then just kind of hash out. And if the thing is that we don't have a specified ordinance that doesn't allow it, then it's getting one.
Correct.
But as it is now, this is what we're going off of, town's code, water,
Okay.
property.
Then what would happen if the town does not have an ordinance or doesn't want to come up with an ordinance? Maybe it would be the lake committee, they would have to come up with a guidelines of what will be acceptable or not acceptable, or what would be allowed. It might fall on us. So, which might be the correct way to go.
We will find out. I will follow up with everyone via email. Because
At this point in time, I'd like to broaden the conversation a little bit beyond just floating devices there. And I'd like to ask Dick if he could participate in the conversation with us concerning the barriers that you and others have. That were specifically put up, I believe, because the algae was a pain in the neck. It was ugly, and that was a good way to keep the algae out. I believe the treatments that we're now doing twice a month are reducing, if not eliminating, the algae. Do you feel as though there's any need to remove the barriers that you have? It has enough time going by to prove that that works and you don't need them or not? Or do you have any sense of how
They were intended to be seasonal. As they show themselves to be unnecessary, they'll probably be removed.
That's sort of what I thought. My thoughts are Dick and others have spent good money to put those things in, and they've done a good job for you during the times when algae was prolific. But if the treatments are able to get rid of it, then that may make unnecessary the need for the barriers. But I'm going to be fair about it because he's spent a lot of money doing this. And he's entitled to do certain things that he
And if we
wants to
can't
do.
find anything or and if there's a gray area on what is or what isn't, then, you know.
Does that seem reasonable? I don't know how much time needs to go by, but you're a good sounding board for me to ask the question to.
The specific question, I believe, was regarding a fountain.
And I extended it.
I know. Is there an objection to the fountain, or did someone just want to know whether it was permissible to put private fountains beyond riparian rights?
So, when it was originally brought up, there were objections, almost, I believe it was unanimous. Putting things in the lake, I believe was unanimously thought of as not desirable. So I hope that answers your question.
We're trying to get monies from the feds or town or wherever to put in fountains that are functional and work and will help the lake. And it would be better to have something uniform throughout the system. You know, maybe tying into power or having them solar, you know, you gotta look into it, see what's gonna be more feasible. But something that would work for the betterment of the lake.
And we did recently request, Lake Catherine did go ahead and install that aeration system. And so we did request from them just any testing that they have on it, what before and after and incrementally, just to see how fast their investment in those aerators has, what it has done, what is the difference between before and after, and how fast it takes effect, right? Was it 3 months in? Was it 6 months in? So we're actually closely watching that. And as soon as we get a report on that, we'll be able to share that with this committee to make that decision, make any other decisions that.
Martha's got them also. Did we get a price on what they paid?
I did not. I can request the
Because
price
the
from
price
them.
we were given was what, like 79,000 or something?
Also,
It was crazy.
And it was over time that they saved the money to purchase them.
Right.
It wasn't a
Yeah,
one-time
yeah, no, they've been
purchase.
saving for a while.
well, didn't we ask Jeff about what he thought the effectiveness of those were?
We did.
And
We did.
he really didn't feel that there was any effectiveness, if I recall correctly.
His
But
responsibility
the
was the
FIU said
immediate
it
area.
said it would be very beneficial, the FIU report.
This fellow didn't, which is what my understandings are over time. The immediate area of an aerator is helped. Beyond that, it's no
Yeah.
benefit.
I don't know, it might be in the minutes from before, I may have written what he had said specifically
I
about
remember
that.
he said specifically that the fountains were more like a.
Aesthetic.
Like, yeah.
Aesthetic.
Yeah,
He
for
really
beauty.
didn't,
That's right.
and that was his opinion, but
I tend not to believe that, but
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist.
No, I'd say what I was going on was the FIU report that the professor or whatever said that would be very beneficial because it got the water from the bottom coming up.
That would probably also depend on the size of the lake as well. So a
Right,
bigger
that's
lake
why you
may
had to
not.
have multiple ones
Yeah,
because
and like
of the
bigger pumps or something, he was, like, might have alluded to something that was bigger underneath versus something just superficial.
And we can touch on that when we have them on the phone. If we just
Yeah.
want clarification on that, we can touch on that as well. It's not a problem.
I guess we basically went through F and G on that one and then.
Test results. So we did get the test results back from the Lake Hilda test. And we were hoping the purpose of pushing this meeting back to September 15th was in the hopes that the permit would be completed and done. The permit would be completed and done from Lake Patricia to where we can go ahead and get that additional testing there as well, because I know we wanted them from both. But unfortunately, that didn't happen until just this Monday as the final complete. So I will request the test for Lake Patricia as well, but we did receive the results from Lake Hilda. And as you can see, the difference from the last time where one of the items were in red, which was a concerned level, it has leveled out and it is now in an acceptable amounts. I believe it was the coliform. It was the total coliform, I believe.
Full coliform.
Is there anywhere in here where the samples, where the sites are?
Those site ones.
It was 2 different sites.
Do you know where?
I can request the detail.
Yeah, I'd like to know because I am at a far end, so I'd like to know. I was looking at them.
You might know this from Lakeville. Have there ever been any reports of illness from swimmers? Yeah.
The only one is Karen. She blames her mother's death on the treatment of the lake, but that's the only one.
I can't recall sicknesses being attributed to water quality in Lake Patricia either.
A matter of fact, we had Hilda tested one time over by the school. The gentleman was asking about his kids swimming. And he did a matching grant with us and we had to test it and it came back fine. So, we haven't tested it then. That's been probably 4 years.
I know Metro Lake Fire, they do a dive in our lake and they test the water before the divers go in.
Yeah, that was how we were alerted to the problem.
Yeah.
More than 6 months ago.
I mean, and there's the question where they collected it, was it duck, feces and things like that? Too, So
So we should have the
We should
results
have-
for Lake Patricia for the next meeting. Or.
Yes, definitely by the next meeting. This one actually happened pretty quickly.
Right.
You see, because sometimes it takes 10 to 15 days. It just depends on the lab and how long it takes to get it back. But if you see here, they took the sample on August 2nd and the report was already ready 2 days later, which is very fast from the previous ones
So
that
this
we've
one was taken
done.
on Monday, you said this Monday?
I'm sorry?
But the one for you was taken on Monday, so.
No, the sample wasn't taken yet.
Oh,
I
okay.
completed the form and submitted it to them, so they haven't done it just yet. But I just sent it on Monday, opposed
If it
to
comes in before we schedule the next meeting and it's something alarming, can you notify us?
alarming, yes. So when you say alarming, basically poor in any of the categories.
Correct.
Yep.
So at least we can know.
Absolutely.
I mean, is this the standard, just taking 2 samples, basically, right? Is that what it is?
Jet, I think within
Site one,
our,
site two.
within our contract, it's one sample at one location that is done. I can't remember if it's biannually or just once a year. But we actually requested from 2 sites.
Great photograph too.
Oh, the one that they took at the front of
Yeah,
the.
beautiful.
Mhm. So if there's any, is there any questions on the testing or anything? Are we ready to make that call? To Jeff?
We have our little rehearsal, what we're gonna ask them.
So the questions I have listed are mostly in regards to the fish stocking. So is there a time of year that they recommend the fish stocking is the most successful? That was one question. The type of fish and the size of the fish as, why do I have location here? You know that, I have something else.
No, there was a concern about the location on where. I mean, I don't know if it came up, I forgot if it came up earlier, but we did say there were a couple of spots like instead of just dropping them all in one spot and have the feed, for instance, maybe. in
Oh,
different-
no, this is the location of the test sites, of the 2 test sites.
Oh, okay. But I know we
But I
had.
know he could send that
But
to
we
me.
had talked about fish stocking at one time, we talked about maybe putting in different areas where, they aren't gonna be attacked. Or maybe, I don't know, they have done this before, maybe setting up like some type of decoy where they do, maybe some bread or rice and then let them, get the fish, I don't know.
That's worth asking.
Peacock don't eat
It's worth
red
asking
rice.
for that
Oh,
location.
yeah. I mean, I'm
Okay,
just
so
trying to
location
think.
of install.
Beans in there.
All right.
I'm just,
I also-
because I know I was there
Yeah.
for, not the last one, because the last one we weren't, they came and they notified, but the one before, it was a few. It was, and they just dumped them all in one spot. I don't know, hundreds, I don't know how many, honestly. They had nowhere to go. Like, I was thinking, like, at least on Lake Patricia, there's, that area there where all the grass is, the sawgrass.
sawgrass.
Maybe I know that's a good spot, but they'd have to take a boat out there. And I don't mind letting my little canoe out there on top of it. Maybe they'll be safer there to find shelter, because they're in the open.
That's a great question to ask
Well,
about.
that was the same thing at Hilda, they were dumped there on the beach, all of them.
They have nowhere to hide.
And, one finger is all they'll swim around, I guess, within a year or something, maybe.
I think the size might hit that one on the head if it's big
How
enough
big they are to
to
get around.
survive. I mean,
Right. And then price comes into it.
correct.
So
I would like to see more big mouth bass.
Big mouth bass.
Large
Largemouth.
They used to populate our lake, but
Yeah.
the peacocks got the better of them, in my opinion. I wasn't there to see the fight, but I think I saw
Can we
who
have
the
a,
winner was.
can we have a fishing company?
I have something else to add to the conversation, and maybe Gisela can phrase another question. If we could address with him again, since it was brought up, the benefit or lack of benefit for the fountains and aerators.
Yes.
And then Gisela, you were asking a question, I think, about what expectations.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you could phrase that
Like a
question.
plan
for
of
him.
action
Schedule.
schedule like that. Give us an update on upcoming activities, upcoming events or whatever you may want to call them.
So the only events that take place are the twice a month services. That is going to continue until the committee decides that they no longer want that. And then the fish stocking is the other thing. We already did got the testing for this year. So there will not be another testing unless if the committee would like to request additional testing. So really, that's all there is as far as activities.
But I
What
like
do you
to
mean?
see more dynamics, more interaction, because things may happen. If they see something, maybe it will trigger something that is needed. So instead of assuming that this is going to happen every month or twice a month, okay, if you find something that needs to be corrected, if something needs to be changed.
I
I'd
can
like to
think,
get the updates.
we could ask him about heat. What does the heat have to do with your schedule? What does the rain that we've had have to do with your schedule? I don't know if there's anything else physically.
The storm
that
drains,
occurs.
the storm
The
drains.
storm drains.
Yeah,
sure,
that's
those
a
kind
very
of things.
good point that he brought up too. I was waiting for new business to talk about that
Well,
too.
you brought that up several times. You brought
Yeah, I
that
know
up, the storm
that
drain.
you have brought it up before.
On the town site, the town site. Is there any provisions in there where we could have a little thing that for the lakes and have people make comments where everybody could read them, different comments?
We have see-click fix for reporting issues. Is that
Not
what you, not like
reporting,
that?
but more of an exchange of, maybe not ideas, but things that are witnessed, like, hey, I saw a lot of ducks today or whatever, and, or the fish are responding, where it would be like a
Facebook page.
chat room or something.
Facebook
For the
page.
lake,
Facebook
like a
page?
Facebook thing for the lakes, maybe.
Okay.
We're,
and-
a positive thing, not
Right.
a bitch session, but just, for.
Any open forum can turn into either.
Yeah.
Any opportunity, we don't know what we're gonna get. I can ask about that. So a place on
Yeah,
our page
On the.
where
on the town
residents can-
website, yeah. For,
communicate about
Communication.
daily activities.
yeah. Because, somebody could post, hey, we're gonna fish stock at Hilda, or, whatever.
Daily activities.
Or, we're seeing the fish spawning on this lake, how's your lake doing,
I would probably even recommend maybe doing a survey. And that kind of creates, that opportunity for residents to say, the good, the bad, I've noticed this, there's not as many turtles, or what's happening to
The lake
ducks.
is looking wonderful,
Anything, anything,
whatever.
they can kind of give all of their feedback and kind of, gauge how the special task district and the management of the lakes are going. We can do
Yeah, because we
something
can
like
get the
that.
other lakes that, chime in and say, hey, our fountains are working great, they're doing this, that, and the other, get feedback from everybody.
I think a survey is a great way to get feedback, especially since you guys already spend, the money to mail the mail outs to all the Hilda and Patricia residents. So maybe that's a way to kind of reach them and get them to complete a survey to get additional information.
Yeah, that sounds good. If maybe on the next agenda, you can add something can we add something like that to there?
Yeah, we've done that with other NSDs when, the board is only a fraction of the rest of the residents. And they kind of wanted to see, how the rest of their neighbors felt that everything was going. So we can do that. I could bring a draft at the next meeting.
Can I add something to that point?
Yes.
Adding something to the mailing. Last meeting, we talked
You're
about
right.
including wording that let residents know that only board members can vote. But becoming a board member is available to any resident. If you're interested, please
Right.
inquire with it.
You are
Something to
absolutely
that.
right. And as you said it, I was like, you're right. I was supposed to bring that to this meeting, that little blurb so that you guys can look at and say yay or nay or add or remove. You are absolutely right.
I know that you want to have too much on your notice.
No.
I mean, as it is, it's
Just
one
a follow-up.
page. So those other two things can
Right.
literally go on the back page. So it wouldn't change
Right.
the amount
Okay.
because it wouldn't change the weight.
Right.
And so it would be the same.
Yeah, we talked about.
We
putting it in the
did,
back.
right on the back.
Yeah.
We absolutely did. Yes. November. Okay, so when you guys are ready, we can go ahead and,
We use all that oil slick. That oil
Need it
stuff.
again or not? Does it
Is it
come
still
back?
there? No.
It disappeared shortly after. I think it was.
You know what I could have been, I thought about it? If somebody would treat their deck with Thompson water seal,
Yeah.
you're gonna have that effect. Huh?
Thompson
Or
River
six
still
or
is like, it's like a sealer.
Yes, the sealer, but it's like a little oil base.
I've also noticed
Like
the
some
trees in our neighborhood
in the water,
have little squiggly things that fall down. They're not leaves, but they're little.
Like little roots.
The call cannot be completed at this time. You see those things on the sidewalk? You see what looks like a little oil slick around where
Yeah.
the thing is. And it's a freak of nature. I don't know what it is, but
You know, the
That's
section-
what it is.
yeah, it looks like, that's kind of what it looks
Yeah.
like. So it could be subject for future for all of us.
Also close to the street. ramp,
Yeah.
Coming right in.
That's true.
That's to me, yeah.
Storm drain.
Wait, inside or outside of there?
Well, this is Jeff Schultz.
Hey Jeff, it's Christina calling from the town of Miami Lakes. How are you?
Doing good. How's everything?
Pretty good. I actually have you on speaker here in our lake maintenance meeting, and we just had a few questions that we would like to ask, if you don't mind.
Oh, yes, of course.
All right, if you can briefly explain the pros and cons to adding a fountain. I know you did touch on that last time, but if you can just give us a brief overview on your professional opinion of adding the addition of an aeration fountain into either Lake Hilda or Patricia.
Briefly, for fountains, it's strictly aesthetic. That's all it really does. It does very limited improvements to water quality. It's just there for visual appearance, beautify the lake. Aeration is a totally different operation in terms of water quality improvement. The aeration diffusers go on the bottom of the lake, and basically a bubbler at the bottom of the lake, which will recirculate the whole water column, and that has lots of benefits in terms of destratifying the water column, reducing muck on the bottom, reducing the amount of midge flies and mosquitoes. So those type of water quality benefits. Fountains, those are just aesthetic.
The aeration then is not really visible.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. They go at the bottom of the lake based on the depth and size of the lake. It depends on how many diffusers that are required to be effective. So that's something you will not see. You'll see a plume of bubbles coming up in certain areas of the lake.
Another question, ballpark costs, any idea?
It really depends on power supply. If you have a power supply, it reduces the cost tremendously. If not, that will be a fairly substantial cost increase in terms of ballpark thousands, a few $1,000s, because you need to get a licensed electrician to run the wires, set up a breaker box. But if you have power, that reduces the cost by $2,000-3,000 approximately. And the cost of the aeration is really going to depend on again, the size of the lake, the depth of the lake, and that would be run through our aeration department, which will give you an accurate assessment of how many diffuser discs you need, how many air boxes you need. So the cost is going to be dependent on that. And I wouldn't be able to give you an estimate on what the aeration would be until we send them the specs of the size and depth of the lake for them to run the numbers to find out, okay, this is what you're going to need. But that's something we certainly can do in terms of offering a proposal.
Can you do that for free?
Yeah, the proposal will be for free. Yeah, of course.
We like that.
That'd be great,
No,
Jeff.
I hear you. Nowadays, anything.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if you're interested in a proposal for aeration, just let me know what lake, if not both. And I can pass that on, pass that along to get you that information.
Yes, please, Jeff. We would like both of those. I'll follow up with an email of the details tomorrow, but yes, we would like to request a proposal for both Hilda and Lake Patricia for a potential aeration based on the depth and size.
Okay, not a problem.
And then next coming up, I know fish stocking time is coming up, so we have a couple of questions about the fish stocking details. And we're hoping that you can provide, you know, some of your expertise based on our lake as you've been to both locations and you kind of see the different species that currently exist. So we would like to know the time of year. Do you think that there's a specific time of year where the fish are more likely to survive and mature to an older age?
Yes, that'd be predominantly springtime is when you want to do that. You get into the cooler months, you're gonna have cold fronts. This particular time of year where we have afternoon thunderstorms, where you have lake turnover, and if the lake is stratified and you don't have aeration, you run the risk of having fish kills. So basically, springtime is ideally the time that you want to stock the lakes with any type of fish.
Perfect. And then the type of fish and then the size. Because I think that some of the concerns some of our residents have been having is that, you know, when we use those very small, you know, 2-inch fish, they tend to die off.
No, they get
Or they
eaten
get
by
eaten.
peacock bass.
Correct. You can stock it with gambusia if you're having complaints from the residents for mosquitoes and midge-flies. Gambusia are known to eat the larvae. We primarily stock that species of fish just to simply control the midge-flies and mosquito population. It also provides a type of food for predatory fish like bass and brim and so forth that will actually eat them. And if you're more interested in recreational fishing, if the residents are allowed to fish on a lake, I would recommend small and largemouth bass. Besides that, if you have an issue with snails and shells and other species of bivalves, I would recommend a shell cracker type of fish that would help eat those up. But based on what I saw there, you really don't have that type of an issue. The times that I've been there, I really haven't experienced too much of a mosquito midge-fly nuisance. Of course, that can vary from day to day, depending on the weather, is one factor. In terms of the aquatic plants you have, I wouldn't recommend grass carp. There's no need for that. They're not going to eat the type of submerged vegetation that you have in those lakes, which is tape grass. Balsinaria americana is the genus and species. The amount of algae that you have there is despite what I know residents would say in terms of it having in their backyard, there's tons of algae, but overall, in terms of percentage of overall surface volume, it's trace amounts. So there's no reason to stop like tilapia, which help eat some of the algae, but really do minimal amount. So really, I would recommend sport fish if there's recreational fishing, gambusia. If you have mosquito and midge-fly issue that I haven't been made aware of, and that would be my recommendation.
Jeff, what would you guess a full-grown gambusia is in length and weight?
Gambusia don't get much bigger than 2-3 inches. They're like minnows. They're very, very small fish, probably weigh ounces.
You don't think
They're
the
very,
peacocks?
very small fish.
You
that
don't
eat,
think
the larvae of mosquitoes?
you don't think the peacocks are going to look upon them as dinner?
They will, but we stock them at a rate where and at a time where they, we take into consideration the predatory effect of that. But there's so many that repopulate and propagate. So you'll never have gambusia being totally eating. They will definitely establish themselves and have an effect on the mosquito and midge-fly population.
Hey, Jeff, the bluegills, don't they eat the mosquito larva too?
Oh, they do. Yeah, the bluegills are good as well. Again, there's more for recreational fishing, help with the fish population. If you have invasive type of species, that's where we recommend stocking those.
Great.
So gambusia, small and largemouth bass, and
Bluegill.
gambusia or bluegill. I guess bluegill is what we've done in the past as well.
Yeah, bluegill. Yeah, is always a good option as well. again, if you're looking to target the mosquitoes, that's where I would go to, because everything else in terms of algae and submerged aquatics, there's no specific species I would recommend for the amounts and species that are there.
Could you send us a price on the fish on size?
Yeah, not a problem. Gambusia, and I'll put bluegill.
And the small and largemouth bass, and maybe, I don't know if you have them in 6 or 12-inch or whatever. You know, where's your breaks?
The bass. Yeah, the bass we stock at a certain size where they're not going to be prey or predatory for other fish. So they stock them at a certain amount of inches. I believe it's 6 to 8, if I'm not mistaken. And we utilize a third-party fishery that stocks them. So we'll have a better idea too when they're available, when the best time is, so forth and so on. But I can definitely get you a proposal or a quote for the bass, the bluegill, and gambusia.
Yeah, and the quantities and where the break price is.
With the size.
Okay. Yep, certainly.
Jeff, what about location? Do you go around the lake, or you drop them in one spot?
When the fisheries guys come, he drops them in one spot. They'll take pictures. We coordinate that with our fisheries division. We'll communicate when he's coming, and can meet you on site. But they drop it all in one area.
Is that recommended, or do you guys think it would be, is it an option to spread out the distribution of the installation?
Historically, it's been in one spot. And that being said, I think that's for a reason. I don't think it really makes a difference, because we stock lakes of various sizes, Lake Hilda, Lake Patricia, being a typical size lake. So in my experience, it hasn't played a part, a difference in unloading them in certain areas or not. Unfortunately, I don't know. I couldn't provide you a more detailed answer of why that is. I just know that's the way they do it historically, and I would imagine they do that for a particular reason.
Okay. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have a question before we wrap up with Jeff?
I just wanted to ask him, Jeff, since you've been using the combination that you recommended, how effective do you feel that's been in the treatment?
I feel confident in what they're using. I have their service reports in front of me. Up until recently, with the lack of rain that we had, water levels being low, which I see in their survey notes. Again, we're breaking records year after year, hottest month on record, the most, hottest days on record. I think we're doing fairly well. It's amazing what one day of cumulative rainfall will make such a difference. And the fact that we haven't had that until fairly recently, especially up here in Pompano, where I know it's spotty, where we'll get any decent amount of rain. And between the dye and the applications that we're doing, the time that we're spending on site, which has increased, I think we're doing fairly well. I know Lake Patricia has that species of algae, which is one of the more difficult species to spray or to kill, to get rid of. And knowing other accounts where we had that similar type of species of algae, and from what I've seen out there, I would equate that to being a success story, because if not, it would be, I've seen accounts of that type of species of algae where it releases from the bottom and it's wind blown out 20, 30 feet of floating algae mats. And in these particular instances, we're having out only 3-4 feet perimeter type algae. So overall, I think we're doing fairly well combating this particular type of algae.
Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, could you give me the name, please, of that particular species that's difficult to kill?
Yeah, it's called Lepto, Lepto, Leptolynvia, Lyngybo. I may have missed misplaced a letter there, but lectolingia.
You're gonna get a grade on this after we hang up.
Yeah, and again, a short story is that just, this species comes into play when after you're spraying year after year, you get rid of the easy kill type of species, and it just mutates into a harder, it just like anything else with diseases and illnesses, you find yourself finding this harder to kill type of species that will move in that's more predominant. But we have effective treatments that combat that. And again, I've seen it very, very bad at some sites where it's almost nearly impossible to get rid of, where we're hand removing it. But that, from what I've seen out there, we're doing a good job at managing it.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, those success stories that you're talking about that had this type of algae, how long have you been treating it, and how long did it take to see a big difference? And have you been able to completely eradicate?
He's saying our lake is a success story
Oh,
compared
okay.
to the
I
other
got you.
situations with that.
Oh,
Yeah, and again, being nature, Mother Nature, temperature, once the temperature actually starts cooling down, the pH of the water actually changes, which actually forces it out, and you'll go back to having a more green species of algae. Leptolingia is a blue-green filamentous type of algae, so it's prone to thriving in high water temperatures, nutrient-rich waters, everything that we have here in South Florida. But as soon as the temperature changes, it'll actually naturally just disappear because of the water chemistry. So you're going to see that come and go with the different seasons.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for being available for us to call and ask, a couple of different questions about some of our concerns. We appreciate you. We have one more.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the winter months, do you think we need all the blue dye that you would put in?
Yes.
I would continue it just because it doesn't hurt. It's not an herbicide. It doesn't hurt. I wouldn't want to risk not doing it and then finding out, okay, well, there's enough nutrients in the water where we're going to have algae issues in the wintertime. I really wouldn't want to find out if that would be the result of stopping adding dye when it's fairly inexpensive. It's not, not natural, but it's not an herbicide. Doesn't affect the fish or wildlife. So I would continue to use it just because of the history that it has been proven successful, has been helpful in reducing the amount of algae growth.
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff, so much. We appreciate you.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye. I think that was,
Oh, that was part of, that could have been some new businesses.
well, I added a couple of items to new business. It'll be the survey draft as well as the new member draft. I'll add under new business proposals so that we can go over the new proposals that we'll be receiving. And then I'll leave it as that because the fish stocking, all of those other items will pretty much remain until the committee thinks that they need to be dropped off. I mean, those are kind of the recurring things that we need to discuss each meeting.
I guess before we finish that, just to know, the
next
next
meeting?
meeting, to try and figure out before the fish stock.
Well, the fish stocking, he recommended spring.
Spring.
And
Right, but
so,
we do it every year, so are we gonna do both next year?
the fish stocking, we did it this year. This year it was done in December. No, it was December
No.
15th.
Right, we need one this year.
It was December 15th. So that would be up to the committee. It would be with the new fiscal year budget after October 1 for sure.
Are we gonna do back to back kind of, or do we wait till spring? and
I would say
everyone's
do it in
done?
November, because really our weather's not really changing. We're not getting any major cold blast or
Yeah,
anything to
right.
kill them off.
If anything,
keep
it's
it-
warmer.
keep it like it
We're in the
was.
50s, that's a cold snap.
Yeah.
I mean, if
So-
that does affect the fish, that is what he said. And he's located in Pompano, so it's not that far from us, right? So the climate's relatively similar. He did say that spring would be the best time, but,
It's optimal, but it doesn't mean that.
We
Right.
got two
I
options.
mean,
I
we're
don't, I
not-
don't know if
and
we
he
can
mentioned the
defer.
additional rain that comes with like bringing the cold weather that could also affect.
Is it possible to defer if the committee wants to defer to the stocking from this year to next year and do a big one time?
So
Or
we
do we want to agree on, no, I'm just asking.
Or maybe do one and save the
I would
money,
think if you
and save
split
the money
it,
for
you have a
the,
better chance of the fish living.
and save the money for the areas.
That's all.
Well, we did request a proposal for the fish
Right.
testing, which would be brought back the next meeting, which our next meeting would be September, would be November. So we can't really do the testing without getting back the proposals that we requested, unless if you just want me to email them to you and,
I think right now the fish stocking is what's more important than the area.
I would think I'd go.
no, the fish stocking, that's what I'm talking about.
Right, right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we requested the
Oh,
proposals for the different
proposals for
sizes
fish,
as well,
right, Okay.
and that is a decision that would need to be made.
Well, we might have to-
So we need in November, do you want to wait
in
for November?
And one
We
in
have
the
enough
spring?
for one fish
Just
stocking
one.
for the year, correct?
So we'll have to do early November and hopefully get how long does it take to schedule? We should ask him that. How long does it take to schedule that stocking? and get the
I think it
fish?
depends on the size and the type. He would have to put it in and then he would be able to give us a timeline.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the middle of in September. I would imagine they can turn that around by November.
Right, but we don't meet till November. And we gotta see.
Would you like to meet sooner?
Oh,
We'd have to meet sooner if we want to, just maybe
Well,
talk
why
about
don't we
that.
do the end of October?
The end of October is an option. I think I already have
You know,
two other
third
meetings
week in
scheduled.
October, and we'll have the prices and the sizes and all that.
Yeah.
We can decide to do it or drop it.
and then just find out what their turnaround time is. So if we make a
Probably a couple
decision.
weeks turnaround, I would think.
Yeah.
We have the-
Can I recommend then that meeting be directed solely at that
I
subject?
agree. I was just gonna say that, yeah, just fish stocking and
Yeah.
maybe not. I don't know.
Tuesday, October 25th. Let me double check the other calendar to make sure there's no conflicting meeting. We could potentially mark it as our meeting. There's a meeting from 7 to 8:30. Are we opposed to doing like a 5:30 start time
6 o'clock,
on Tuesday?
6 o'clock. I'll never make it here on time.
6 to 7?
6 to 6:20.
Yeah, it should be a quick
6
one.
to 6:30-ish. Well,
Yes.
I'll lock it for the hour.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so that'll be our next meeting, October 25th, 6 PM.
25th.
And that's a
6 p.m.
Thursday,
That is a
Tuesday.
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 Just keep in mind, I need to do the mail outs for this meeting as well. I'll do them at the beginning of October, so we still have time. We still have time for everything.
Meaning I gotta do this.
And can we ask that you keep tabs on whether those quotes are ready or not for the meeting?
Absolutely. I'm sure, I feel like we should be able to get them quick. The quotes are never the issue.
Yeah.
It's always the order and how long it takes to get them here.
Get 'em
That's the
here.
Yeah.
That's usually the bigger problem.
Availability, yeah.
He's generally pretty quick with providing those, but they are gonna need to go out there and measure for the aeration. That may take a little longer, but we're looking for the fish for this meeting.
Yeah, They can see it
Um,
online.
hmm?
They can see that online.
Yeah, they probably
Not
already
the
have
depth.
that stuff, no?
The
I
depth?
don't think they have.
I don't think the depth, they could see, they could definitely get the area of the lake, but to get the depth is gonna be different. Because you gotta get the depth at the different
points.
Correct.
Depending on how many they think they need.
Now, can we get the quote for the fish ahead of the
You want me to
meeting?
send it as soon as it comes out? I can,
Yeah,
but just,
because that way we can think about it, we want to get more 6-inch or
and I can send you
whatever,
that
and how many,
next
where
to
the
the
break point
previous
is and so
year's
forth.
quotes.
We'll come in with an idea already of what.
Yes. The two committees, I will do that. I'll send that out with last year's proposal price. That way you can just kind of see how
Okay,
big of a
yeah.
difference it is, if any.
See if the inflation has hit the fish.
Everything is a.
All right, we are set. I'm scheduling our meeting now. I'll send you guys the invites for them.
I did have a matter for new business, if I may. We are here as an advisory to the town council. And we have no means of receiving feedback on anything that we do with respect to the town council. Do you have anything to communicate, or should there be some means of communication with the town council that our services are necessary, they're providing a good service or not?
There is is it a quarterly chair meeting? Is it a quarterly chair meeting?
Yeah, it's quarter to seven.
That generally all of the chairs would be at with the town manager, and from there, they're able to discuss anything that anybody's got going on. Are you requesting something else?
No, but in the time that we've been organized, I've yet to hear anything from the town. It's all us. sitting
Whether
here
we're
talking.
headed in the right
Feedback.
direction or
And,
not,
you
or
know,
what.
we've never heard any criticism, any applause or anything. To our work, so I'm just asking.
Well, I could say.
That's all I can say.
Angel's been in it because he's the vice, and I've gone to them regularly, quarterly, and yes, when I explain what's been going on, whatever we do get from your chairs, thank you. Yeah, we have noticed this going on, and yes, we have noticed the arguments down. So yes, and the town manager gets in.
I know the last one I went to, the manager was very receptive to the few things that I said, and he took care of it.
Okay, good.
So, I mean, as long as we give him feedback, going to him, he's very receptive to what we've been doing, I think.
Okay.
So,
Would you prefer providing a report to council? Our events committees do that. They report to council once a year. Is it once a year or twice a year? Where they say, okay, these are the events that we've done so far. This is how they're going. This is what we're doing moving forward. It's kind of like a check-in and check-up. Is that something that you would like for the NSDs to do?
I prefer the informalities that you guys are speaking of.
Okay. So bringing us different concerns during
Yeah.
the
That's
committee
fine,
chair
then.
meeting. Okay.
And I'll be better about. when I
Sharing
go
the
over
information.
class as well, I'll be better about sharing them. Yes, that's correct.
I can add that as an item, as an agenda item. And if there's something to discuss, we'll discuss it. And if not,
Yeah,
okay.
whenever it comes up, if there's one coming, I'm pretty sure there's one coming up maybe before our meeting. Gotta see. And then
In October,
is there a chair, quarterly
committee chair meeting, I'll double check.
Okay,
and I
and if
can-
there is one before, add it to the agenda. That way we can
Okay.
Speak of what was discussed.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Got my marching orders.
Motion for
To
adjournment.
Yep, I'm just looking to see who would like to make the motion. to
I'll make the
adjourn.
motion to,
Just did.
Well, I
you
can't.
second.
Oh, you wait.
I'll second. Or adjourn.
Who motioned it? For the
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn by Patrice,
Everybody
seconded
looked at me, I go, okay.
by, seconded by Sam. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Awesome. Thank you all for coming. You're all amazing.
Right.
Absolutely. Now I'm gonna schedule our meeting.
You look like you're completely recovered now.
Oh, I'm good. I haven't been running, but I go to the gym. I'm able to lift weights. I'm able to quarter squat. I'm able to do a lot of
Very
things.
good.
Very happy.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you, thank
That's
you.
good.
Losing weight.
Thank you so much for coming. I eat more when I'm working out. Absolutely.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies, for coming.
Thank
you. Type it in right there. I'll have it for you.
Yeah, well, I'm pursuing that.
Well, this is- Yeah, you can have it. Anything that we receive would be public records. Absolutely. It's a copy. No, you could just make a request for it and we can give it to you. We generally provide them at all these meetings and make sure we have extra copies, so. You can take that with you. That's it. You're very welcome. My pleasure. Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming. Thank you, thank you. So would you like an invite to the next meeting, sir?
That's me.
You want me to add you to the next meeting invite? Perfect. All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll get these back to you fast.
Bye, Christina. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night. Have a
you.
good
Thank you
night.
for coming.
Yeah, I'm trying, man, I'm trying. Rise to the glory. Yeah, here we go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Take care. What you got? Uh-oh. Valentina, yesterday, went out and picked a whole lot of the star fruit. She said she's gonna make. I didn't make a lot.
Who's singing? Excuse me.
Bless you, bless you, bless you.
Excuse me, thank you. Oh, I never pressed stop. What's up?
No, I'll talk to you. I would just want to ask you a question.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, our meeting has